Just 1 year after Napoleon sold the sprawling Louisiana Territory to the United States, a bold military expedition led by Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark launched into the unknown to explore lands that Europeans had never mapped. The epic journey consumed 2 years, 4 months, and 10 days, and countless citizens of the fledgling United States had written them off as dead, certain the men had vanished into the wilderness forever. Keep watching to uncover more riveting facts about the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition. Thomas Jefferson was borderline obsessed with mammoths. He would have been shocked to learn it was actually the American mastodon, the mammoth's northern relative that he couldn't stop talking about, but back then everyone called them mammoths. He hoarded fossils like treasures and constantly begged his friends to send him any mammoth teeth they discovered, remaining stubbornly convinced that these gigantic furry elephants still wandered North America's wild landscapes. His fixation sparked when someone unearthed a 7-foot mammoth tusk alongside a massive jawbone. Jefferson saw these enormous creatures as living symbols of his young nation's raw power. Jefferson's burning desire to find a living mammoth came from reading the work of French naturalist Georges Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon. Despite never visiting America, Buffon published a brutal takedown of American wildlife, claiming it couldn't hold a candle to animals from elsewhere on the globe. Buffon even insisted that American bears, deer, and wolves were pathetically inferior to their European cousins. Jefferson desperately hoped Lewis and Clark's voyage of discovery would stumble upon herds of woolly mammoths or maybe giant ground sloths that would make every other animal look insignificant. Though the expedition identified 122 previously unknown animal species, Jefferson never got the prehistoric proof he hungered for. What the expedition members didn't know was that Spain had put out an arrest warrant for every single one of them, since Spain contested the Louisiana Purchase, having just handed the territory over to France. Plus, because the Louisiana Territory's boundaries remained vague and unmapped by Europeans, the Spanish were convinced Lewis and Clark were trespassing on Spanish soil. The Spanish discovered the expedition's plans through their spy planted inside Jefferson's administration, General James Wilkinson. While the expedition's stated goal was finding the mythical Northwest Passage, a waterway linking the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the Spanish were dead, certain the Americans were plotting to seize their gold-loaded territories in the Southwest. Lucky for the expedition, the massive and wild Louisiana Territory let them accidentally slip past their hunters. The exact head count is fuzzy, but roughly 45 people made up the expedition party, including one enslaved black man named York. York had been born into slavery and raised in chains. He belonged to Clark's father, a wealthy Southern plantation owner. He grew up right beside Clark, and York's intimidating 6-foot, 200-pound frame probably convinced Clark to bring him along. Throughout the journey, York was treated like a free man, carried guns, hunted with the crew, and helped find paths through unknown territory. Though the white Southerners in the group initially kept their distance from York, he became wildly popular with the Native Americans they met. For nearly all the indigenous people, York was the first black person they'd ever encountered, and they were mesmerized by his skin color and powerful build. Time and again, York's presence smoothed relations between the explorers and local tribes. The Nez Perce called him Raven's Son, and the Arikara dubbed him Big Medicine, speculating whether he had supernatural abilities. York had been an essential and reliable expedition member, so when the party finally returned home, York assumed he'd be freed and compensated like everyone else. But Clark rejected him cold, furious that York didn't want to cheerfully go back to being enslaved. In a letter to his brother, Clark griped, "He has got such a notion about freedom and his immense services that I do not expect he will be of much service to me again." Clark even threatened that if he rented out or sold York, it would be to a severe master. Though Lewis and Clark claimed their goal was peaceful exploration for diplomacy and science, Most Corps of Discovery members were soldiers, and everyone understood this was a military mission. Keeping that in mind, the team hauled an enormous weapons cache. They packed rifles, muskets, 200 pounds of gunpowder, 400 pounds of lead for making bullets, and close combat weapons like pikes, tomahawks, and knives. Lewis even carried the bleeding edge of firearm innovation, a pneumatic rifle powered by compressed air that could silently blast off roughly 20 consecutive shots. Despite all this firepower, the weapons mainly served to wow the locals and bag dinner. During the entire expedition, they fought just one gun battle against the Blackfoot Confederacy while heading home. Sacagawea was born into the Lemhi Shoshone tribe but got ripped away from home around age 12. A Hidatsa raiding party kidnapped her, likely giving her the name everyone knows now, and dragged her to the Hidatsa's Knife River villages, where she became enslaved. A French-Canadian fur trader named Toussaint Charbonneau bought her. He lived in the Hidatsa village of Metaharda. Charbonneau was 2 decades older than Sacagawea and had married several other young Native American women. Lewis and Clark rolled into their village during the bitter winter of 1804. Since Charbonneau spoke English, French, and various Western native languages, they hired him as their translator. But Charbonneau couldn't speak Shoshone, so they agreed the pregnant Sacagawea would tag along too. Turns out, this was a brilliant move. Sacagawea became absolutely crucial to the expedition's success. Beyond translating, she spotted edible plants, crafted moccasins and clothes for the men, and helped chart their route. Plus, having a native woman traveling with an infant signaled the group's peaceful intentions and calmed any suspicious tribes they approached. Come mid-August, the party ran into a Shoshone band. Incredibly, the group was led by Sacagawea's own brother, who she hadn't seen in 5 agonizing years. The tearful reunion definitely boosted the expedition's standing with the Shoshone, who supplied the party with horses and experienced guides to navigate them across the brutal Rocky Mountains. Though the expedition crew dealt with snake bites, dysentery, countless injuries, and sexually transmitted diseases, just one team member actually perished during the trip. Probably around 21 years old, Sergeant Charles Floyd was likely the youngest Corps member. His family knew Clark's family well, and he'd been appointed Clarksville Township's first constable back in 1801. 3 months into the journey, Floyd got seriously sick near what's now Sioux City, Iowa. Lewis declared it bilious colic, and though they tried everything to save him, he died on August 20, 1804. Modern historians figure Floyd's appendix burst, meaning he would have died even staying home in Clarksville Township. By joining the Corps of Discovery, he earned eternal fame as the expedition's sole casualty. Though only one person died, injuries plagued the expedition constantly. On August 11, 1806, Meriwether Lewis took a bullet to the hip from one of his own teammates. While the wound didn't kill Lewis, he had to endure several miserable weeks sprawled on his stomach in a canoe. Thankfully, nobody was trying to murder him. It was just a hunting accident gone wrong. Though nobody actually saw the shooter, everyone suspected Pierre Cruzat, a half-blind crew member who excelled at steering boats through dangerous rapids and playing fiddle music. During an elk hunt, Lewis wearing elk hide got shot in the butt. He scribbled in his journal, "I called out to him, 'Damn you. You have shot me,' and looked towards the place from whence the ball had come. Seeing nothing, I called Cruzat several times as loud as I could, but received no answer. While traveling, Sacagawea delivered a baby boy named Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau. The bachelor Clark absolutely adored the kid, calling him Little Pomp or Pompey. Clark built a strong bond with Toussaint Charbonneau and deeply respected Sacagawea's toughness, nicknaming her Janie. Once the expedition wrapped up, Clark repeatedly tried adopting Jean-Baptiste. Though initially turned down, Clark convinced Charbonneau to relocate his family to St. Louis in 1809 for Jean-Baptiste's education. By 1811, Charbonneau had sold property back to Clark and started working for a different explorer. Sacagawea and Jean-Baptiste stayed in St. Louis under Clark's care. Clark officially became Jean-Baptiste and Lassette's legal guardian in 1813 and eventually recorded Sacagawea as dead. Though Lewis and Clark are worshipped as American heroes today, people barely noticed their achievement when they returned. They never found a practical land route across the continent or a water passage connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific. They also fueled wild speculation that a Dakota tribe descended from the Welsh. Researchers haven't found any evidence of Welsh ancestry among the Mandan, and their language is Siouan, which shares nothing with Welsh.